This video is going to review problem 1 from the independent practice for today. The first thing you're given is a list of LPS students and how far away they live from LPS in miles. You're also given some summary statistics, and the first thing you're asked to do is to construct a box plot. So scanning over the statistics, I see that the minimum student lives about half a mile from LPS, the maximum student lives about 7.5 miles from LPS. I'm going to try to fit that all in to a number line in the space I'm given. My minimum value is 0.5. My maximum is going to be 7.5. 1. Okay, all the way up to 7.5, and then my minimum value is over here a little bit less than 0.5, so I'm going to put point right there. My Q1 happens at 1. My median happens at 3. And my Q3 happens at 4.3. So there's my box. It might be helpful here to label some of these key features, especially if you weren't in class at the end of last week. So let's go up to our maximum of 7.5. And then labeling on a box plot. Here's our max. The right side of the box is always our Q3. The left side of our box is our Q1. And the middle line of our box is always the median. And then the whisker to the left is the min. Okay, key features of a box plot. Moving on, Jose's family is considering moving. How will this change Jose's distance from 7.5 to 10 and complete the table based on this new data? So Jose, who already lived the farthest away, he was the maximum at 7.5. He's going to move even farther away from school. So re-looking at the data, I can already see that's going to affect my maximum in my summary statistics. So I'm going to go ahead and change my maximum to 10. It's not going to affect my minimum, so I can keep the minimum as 0.4. Now let's think a little bit more deeply about how it's going to affect Q1, the median, and Q3. So for the median value, even though I change this to 10, if I cross out to find the middle number, my median is not going to be affected. So I'll just prove that to you quickly. So if I cross out from the sides to find my median or the middle number, my median is still going to be at 3. So that is unchanged from before Jose moved. Okay, Q1, will that be the same? Let's see. So Q1 is the lower median, the median of the lower half of my data. So I'm just going to look at the lower half of my data, and I'm going to cross out. And I end up 1, and it's 1. So my median, or sorry, my Q1 is unchanged, or the median of the lower half of my data. My Q3, hopefully you could guess, it's also going to be unchanged. It's still, let's quickly data, it's going to be halfway between 4.2 and 4.4. So my Q3 is going to be in between those two numbers, which is 4.3. So the same as before. It seems like the only thing that's going to change is my mean. So I'm going to go ahead and add up all these numbers and divide by the number of numbers to get my mean. And that should be the only thing that's different or that changes with Jose's move. So adding up everyone, and then since we're changing the last number to 10 because Jose moved, I'm going to put that in as 10, and I divide by 13 because I have 13 numbers in my data set. So my new mean, my new average is 3.92 if I round up. And it should make sense that my mean went up. Not by a lot, but it did go up. So let's say everything stays the same. Except the mean rises to 3.92 miles. So now the average student lives about 3.92 miles away from LPS because Jose moved. Okay. Stephanie lives closest to the school. Using the definition of an outlier, is her distance considered an outlier? Support your answer with appropriate work. Okay, so I am told to use my definition of an outlier, so I'm going to do that. I know that an outlier is, as we learned earlier today, a data point that is more than 1.5 times above Q3 or 1.5 times below Q1, and I just wrote out like a little equation here to help me. So it's either 1.5 times the IQR less than Q1 or 1.5 times the IQR plus Q3. So Stephanie lives 0.4 miles away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if she's more than 1.5 times the IQR less than the median. To do that, I'm going to quickly up here calculate the interquartile range, or IQR. The IQR is Q3 minus Q1, which in this case is 4.3 minus 1, which is going to be 3.3. So the IQR is 3.3. I'm just going to rewrite the definition of an outlier here. So since we're looking at like the lower end of the data, we're wondering if she's an outlier to the left. I'm going to say she would be an outlier if she's less than Q1 minus IQR times 1.5. So I'm going to just plug in my values. 1. My IQR I just calculated is 3.3 times 1.5. 3 times 0.95, so 1 minus 4.95, and I actually end up with a negative number, negative 3.95, and Stephanie definitely is not a negative distance away from LPS. So since she is not less than negative 3.95 away from she is not less than negative 3.95 miles away from school. She is not an outlier. Let's say not. She is not an outlier. Okay. And it's actually impossible for anyone to be an outlier because no one could live a negative distance away from school. So no matter how close you live to school, there's no outliers to the left. This should make kind of sense to you. With distance, it's hard to have outliers less than because it's hard to go, you can't go below 0 with a distance. So it's very rare to have an outlier that's to the left. Okay. Now, thinking about Jose, the maximum value, thinking about if he's an outlier to the right, Was Jose's distance from school considered an outlier before the move? So before the move, he lived 7.5 miles away. How about after the move? After the move, he lived 10 miles away. So let's see what the marking, what the point is to define an outlier to the right. So an outlier to the right would be Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR up here, 4.95, and Q3 is 4.3. So I'm going to take 4.3, that's coming right from my summary statistics, plus IQR times the 1.5, which I calculated already to be 4.95. .3 plus 4.95 is 9.25. Okay, so anything greater than 9.25 would be considered an outlier. Mathematically speaking. So before Jose moved, he was actually not an outlier because he still lived within 7.5 miles of school. So 7.5 miles is not an outlier because it's not greater than 5. But after he moved 10 miles away, considered an outlier. Okay, so now that he moved 10 miles away from school, he would be considered an outlier. Okay, that was a long video. What I would like you to do now, this was the hardest problem, is go ahead and move on to problems 2, 3, 4, and 4. So the rest of the independent practice, and then we'll go right into our exit ticket for today. The answer key is on the home page. Ask me questions, ask your partner questions, and use this problem as well as your notes from the beginning of class. Okay, thank you for your attention.